Welcome to For the Love of Books, a podcast by North Lanarkshire Libraries.
Hi everyone, welcome back to North Lanarkshire Library's podcast For the Love of Books. My name is Chris Wilson, the E-Services Librarian, and today we're going to kind of follow up a little bit on a podcast that we kind of follow up a little bit in the podcast we did a couple of weeks back. Obviously, we've done the one about the Summer Lee project with Drew and Neil. Today, I thought I'd find out about another exciting project that's going on, which is the Rediscovering Airdrie project. And to do that, I have got a wee interview with Katie McIntosh, who is the engagement officer for the project, and she is going to tell us all about it. The project is quite an exciting one. It's funded from Historic Environment Scotland, National Lottery Heritage Fund, and North Lanarkshire Council itself. And its aim is to kind of seek to kind of connect the locals and visitors with the history of Airdrie, its places and the people, and its aims is to kind of really restore and repurpose the key heritage buildings and establish new spaces for cultural creativity and enterprise as well. It's a fantastic thing that's going on, and hopefully the funding bid will go ahead for it, and it'll kind of come to something really, really exciting for the Airdrie area. And Katie is here to tell us all about the project so far. So, hi Katie, thank you for joining me on today's podcast. You are part of the team that's involved with the Rediscovering Airdrie project that the council is involved with, which is aimed at reconnecting the public with the heritage of the town, and a part of which will include the library, I'm sure. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that project before we go any further?
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you firstly for inviting me along.
You're very welcome.
It's been such an exciting journey Rediscovering Airdrie's been on so far, so yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to telling you about it. So to start off, what it is Rediscovering Airdrie is a heritage-led regeneration project. So we're in the initial stages just now, and myself and John Paul and other parts of the growth team are the main spearheading for this project, and we're gearing up to put in a larger funding bid for a 4-year project. So just now we're being tasked with collecting stories and history and basically showcasing all of what Airdrie's got to offer, coming up with an activity plan, looking at things, what's going on in Airdrie, the activities, and we have found there's so much going on already. And basically packaging it up for a funding bid. So that's what we've been working on, engaging with the public, speaking with the public, and it has been really, really insightful. I've really enjoyed it. So basically the Rediscovering Airdrie was launched after 70 years after the Airdrie experiment. So don't know if you'll know about it because you're at Airdrie.
I don't know. The Airdrie experiment sounds interesting. I have to admit, I've not heard of that.
Right, okay, well, it's like the bigger part of it, you probably realise, was the Book of Airdrie. Have you heard of the Book of Airdrie? Yeah, so the Book of Airdrie, yeah. So most people in Airdrie had this on their shelves, or their grandparents had it on their shelves, and that was a product of the Airdrie experiment, which was all the kind of leading community people in Airdrie came together to showcase and pull together all the stories of Airdrie, the history and things like that, and that ended up in an exhibition called the Discovering Airdrie exhibition, and then that produced the Book of Airdrie. So 70 years later, we're then now rediscovering Airdrie. So yeah, this is basically the premise of the project, the fact that Airdrie's got such a rich history, and all this kind of predecessing work that the local people have worked on. It was just a no-brainer that this would be the flagship for the heritage-led regeneration project. So right now, you might have seen me and John Paul out in the streets with our flags, rediscovering Airdrie, but if you've not...
you might do soon.
Yeah, no, exactly. But if not, we've got a logo that we're using, which is a stained glass window in the library, which might be relevant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anybody's seen it in the Airdrie Library, it's basically like John Paul usually tells us spiel, so I'll give this one a go. This is usually his bag. He was the one that picked the logo before I came about. But so basically, on the two sides of the stained glass window is two muses. So I found out all about Greek muses, which there's 9. They're goddesses, and they're their sisters, and they were basically the founders of art and science and literature. It's where we get the word muse and musings and museum and music is all coming from this Greek Greek mythology of the 9 muses. So there you go.
There you go.
So there's 2 muses depicted on the stained glass window. On one side it is the muse of epic poetry, and it's kind of depicted with their foot on like a couple of stacks of books, basically standing on the shoulders of giants of all the literature people that's came before. And on the other side is the muse of astronomy, where they are charting out the skies and all that kind of stuff. So the stained glass window was picked because the library and Airdrie and the values is basically the meeting of science and literature. Because if you don't know, the library has an observatory on the top of it. And
our little hidden gem up there.
Exactly. It's funny that you said gem, because when we it was before I started, but when John Paul was taking one of the funders around showing Airdrie, and we showed the observatory and all that, they did say that the observatory is like the crown jewel of this project, because of just like it's such an amazing resource that Airdrie has there. So that stained glass window basically just represents the library, which is the literature and the science and the meeting of that. And basically this is the values that we believed that was in Airdrie, and what they kind of believed. That stained glass window actually started off in the library across the street over where the art centre is in the Anderson Street, and it was brought over because they did value it that much. So that's our logo. And what I would say as well is, I've been asked this question before in the past, right? I was going on about like, oh, Airdrie's so rich for history, I've learned so much, and they're like, what's your favourite thing that you've learned? And I was like, stumped. But since then, I've went away and thought about it, and I'm right, I've learned so much, but what's my favourite thing is actually that Airdrie's so for the people.
Yeah.
And the observatory and the library is all part of that. There's 3 key things that I think represent Airdrie and the history and its values, and that is the fact that they were the first to enact the Free Public Library Act in Scotland, and they were actually 18 years before anybody else. The next one was Dundee. They then had the public observatory and a telescope, which was again, it was gifted and donated, and the Airdrie Town Council decided that they were going to make it public for people to use. And then the Airdrie Savings Bank, which is all in the one kind of wee area. So the Airdrie Savings Bank used to be the former, it's since closed, but it was made again for the working class people to give them kind of a layer of financial stability and things like that. So So yeah, that's really what my favourite thing is about Airdrie. Not like you asked, but I'm telling you.
No, that's really interesting, and there's lots of really interesting things there as well. And I didn't actually I have seen the logo, but do you know, I hadn't actually equated it to being the glass window in the library. I hadn't actually kind of really made that connection. But that's fantastic. I was wanting to ask you as well about a little bit about your role within the project as well, and what attracted you to that as well. So what is your specific role within it, and why did you kind of want to get involved with it?
Okay, so my role is engagement officer. As you could maybe tell, I speak for a living, and I speak in a chat to people. I'm kind of tasked with going out to speaking to the people of Airdrie, which I have been doing, and I've really, really enjoyed it and loved that part of the role. How I kind of got into this was, so I'm very new to the heritage and history part of things. My background is more community-led. I've got a qualification in community education. I worked in the New College Lanarkshire for 10 years, delivering employability skills and personal development and working with young people, and then I was a mental health coordinator at the end up before I ended up leaving. That's my background, so I kind of came in through the community part, speaking to the people, having that kind of background. So the history and the heritage stuff is new, and I've been really enjoyed learning that part. And so
that's one of the kind of great things. Probably, I was going to say you've got the kind of like skills to do the job, but you're also that kind of learning aspect of it as well. When you're kind of learning about the kind of history as you're kind of doing the job too, which is really kind of probably quite a fun element to it, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely, and learning from the people and asking them and giving them. And also, actually, I thought, like, would I need to be from Airdrie, or where would I have to have a really in-depth knowledge of the history? But it turns out it's actually kind of worked quite nicely, because then when I'm speaking to people, they're kind of educating me, and it's genuine interest. So I'm like, oh, so what does that mean? What? And I'm not coming from a place where I'm just kind of learning fresh and learning anew. So, and yeah, well. Sorry.
You probably would also kind of have your own like kind of preconceived ideas and things like that sort of stuff of it. It's all kind of coming fresh, so you're kind of learning it all in one go, which is probably quite a good kind of fresh eyes kind of thing sort of for the project.
Yeah, definitely. Fresh eyes, and and so I'm from Cumbernauld, so I've heard of Airdrie, and I just didn't know that all this stuff was happening here, to be honest, or had happened here. And I'm kind of, I say this one, so I kind of say that Cumbernauld is a new town, so I don't have any history and heritage, so I'm kind of borrowing Airdrie's and just living vicariously through Airdrie's rich heritage. But by the way, people from the Cumbernauld village don't come for me. They'll be like, we've got history. I don't know too much about it, but definitely it's been a great part of it, and I've really enjoyed it.
Fantastic. And now, as you mentioned, that over the course of the year so far, there has been various activities that have happened related to the project and stuff like that. One of them includes one of our friends that we work quite close with, the Airdrie Astronomical Association, who are involved with the telescope that you were mentioning earlier on, that's in Airdrie Library's historic observatory. How did they get involved, and what was the event? It did sound quite a fun event to have for the project for that.
Yeah, so basically, I'll start off with saying I'm going to go into a wee bit of history of the observatory, just because, like I said, there might be people listening that don't really familiar with the Airdrie. People that are from Airdrie, it's like, oh, sometimes it'd be old hat, like this is all a given, but
you'd be surprised how few do actually don't say it is.
Yeah, so I'll kind of give a wee bit of insight into it, but firstly, there's a member of the Airdrie astronomer. I can't say astronomer. I'm trying to practice this one when John Paul, and I can't say it still. Astronomical. There we go. Association. Aileen Malone. So we actually have worked alongside her, and she produced a research piece about the history of observatory and where they are now and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of my kind of knowledge just came from that. So sorry if I'm getting parts of this wrong, but yeah, I'll try and do it justice. So basically, the Airdrie is very lucky to have an observatory, because there's only 1 in 4. That one in Airdrie is 1 in 4 in the whole of Scotland. But what Aileen was kind of saying was, although there's another 3, the one in Airdrie is actually very unique, because the other 3 are built in dark areas, remote, and it's for the purpose of like the observatory. That's me just claiming Airdrie. So Airdrie has actually built a purpose-built observatory on top of the library. So no other observatory in Scotland have got a library and observatory together. And this, again, like I said, it's something I really admire about Airdrie, is it's for the people. It's to make it very accessible for people. You don't have to worry about travelling and things like that, and it can be used by the people of the town.
Yeah. So
this started off with the first telescope being gifted by Dr. Thomas Reid, who was a eye surgeon at the time, and he gifted it. This is when it was the library that was in the art centre around the corner in Anderson Street, And the Airdrie Town Council actually made funds available to then build a purpose, like a makeshift one in the loft at the time. Then when the kind of demands, it was a big event. When they launched that, 200 people attended that, and they started their weekly astronomy kind of meetings and things like that.
Yeah.
At that point, the library outgrew the building, and then the observatory outgrew the building, and they then moved round to the Wellwind. So there was a curator at the time called James Lewis, and he had basically a vision to make a purpose-built observatory that's attached to the library with its very own entrance and things like that. This again was very like a important point, because that means the people using the observatory could have access to the tower at all times, even outside the library closing times, basically. He also was the one who acquired a new larger telescope that's now that they use today. So from that point, and this was like in 1925, so nearly 100 years ago that they were doing this, they kind of ran weekly meetings and things like that, and kind of brought it, which is still a practice that's getting held today by your friends, and my friends and the project friends, the Airdrie Astronomical Association. Easy for me to say. So
that is a bit of a tongue twister.
It's called it. No, it's just astronomical. See, astronomical. There we go. I got it. Astronomical. When I go focus on it, I can say it. So basically now they were founded in 2009, and they are still kind of carrying on this practice of running weekly meetings and things like that. They do open door days when people go in and kind of see it. They do youth groups, and they do visits from schools. They also did this really cool project where they got real, what they call astronauts, my mind went blank, astronauts to come and visit the observatory. So they had Charlie Duke, who was actually one of the 12 men to walk on the moon, and they also have seen another 2 astronauts who have flew to the moon as well. So out of the 24 people who flew to the moon, Airdrie seen 3 of them, which is amazing.
3 have visited the library. There we go.
Right, okay, thank you. So again, this could be like old hat for people that already know about all this stuff, but for the people that are just newly listening, this might be like news to them. So basically, we obviously realised that the observatory and this group, the AAA, we'll say, are such a cornerstone of Airdrie, and the work that they're doing is very important. So this again was kind of before my time. So John Paul worked with them and arranged an idea, which was to bring the astronomy to the streets of Airdrie. So we set up a street astronomy day. Fantastic. Which then I was in post by then, and I was able to attend. So that was a really, really fun day. It was amazing. I think we ended up speaking to like 120 people that were coming over and trying the telescopes. So the telescopes were set up in the street. So it was at the Airdrie Cross, just outside Baines. Yeah. And we had like a big tent, and we had like school activities for maths and space related things. Then we had this big telescope set up, and people came along with their family, and they did spend a lot of time there. And then we also had like a table, and we talked about rediscovering Airdrie and things. Also a fun thing that happened was they also brought their own telescopes, because telescopes are one of these things that happen where they get bought as Christmas presents, but they don't know how to set them up. So they came along with their own telescopes, and the astronomers basically showed them how to use them and all that kind of stuff. So that was a good thing. I know, it was really, really good. We've actually got a wee video of this Street Astronomy Day on our website, if you'd like to check it out. But also I wanted to draw attention to if anybody like wants to be involved in this kind of stuff, they do hold open days and meetings and things like that. They've got a meeting, they've got days where people can come in. I'm sure it's Tuesday, but don't hold me to it. And they do have a Friday meeting in the Wellwind Church, but you can get all this information from the airdrieobservatory.com. and it's got all their contact details and things like that. So if people are wanting to get involved or they seem interested in this, there's definitely like a group that they could join, and they're very welcoming and they're very friendly and great people.
Yeah, a couple of them have, at least one of them I think has been on our podcast before, talking about it and stuff like that as well. Cause, they quite often they do sort of some of the winter openings and stuff like that. Cause obviously it gets darker at night time. Better kind of light for them to kind of be able to use the telescope and stuff like that. So they tend to do some winter openings, which I would imagine will probably happen this year again. I haven't heard anything about that just yet, but I would imagine there will be a chance to kind of possibly do that kind of stuff. And I would imagine that the observatory will probably form quite sort of a good part of the sort of plans that are kind of getting put together for the project. For the bids to go forward.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the key themes and the key kind of plans and thoughts on the Rediscovering Airdrie team is we do want Airdrie to become a kind of vibrant, attractive place for people to visit and spend time, and we definitely see like the library and the observatory being like a key cornerstone of that, a key part of that. But since I've kind of spoke about the observatory history, I can give a kind of brief history about the library. I don't know if that's something we could do, right? Okay. Yeah. So again, as I've kind of stated, the Public Library Act and the Free Public Library Act was the first kind of part of the library story. For the fact that it can be like a public resource for the community. So they started this in November 1853. And there was at the time, you have to kind of realise, before this kind of point, people with wealth were the only ones that could really afford books and things. Yeah. There was some contention about this Library Act, so it was enacted in England and Wales before Scotland. Yeah. And they were kind of saying, well, literacy levels are low, like, why are we doing this kind of thing? There was also this backlash for the people that were kind of monetising. So they were monetising books and things. So Airdrie did have a subscription library from the Mechanic Institute, and they were kind of limited their access to people who could pay a subscription and things. So that kind of existed in the 1700s. But when the public library came about, they then purchased all the collection they had. They had 400 volumes in their collection, and they bought it for £40 to make it public.
Fantastic.
But before, when this kind of happened, before they ended up in the Arts Centre, Carnegie Library in Anderson Street, they kind of struggled to find a home. So it was in a clerk's office first in the townhouse, just a few shelves, and then it went to the council-owned building in Market Street, and then it ended up in a first floor of a hall in the west side of Bank Street, a building there. But then they outgrew. They were wanting to increase in visibility, and Andrew Carnegie kind of donated money. At the time it was £1,000 to open up a purpose-built building for the library to house it and give kind of an area for people to read and things like that. So this was opened, and most people from Airdrie might know it as, like I keep on saying, the Arts Centre was the former Arts Centre. So it's a former Arts Centre, former public library. And I had the telescope that is now, you can see this telescope was donated by the eye surgeon, so that's up in the local studies in the Wellwind Library. And it also had the first observatory thing, and then we had the stained glass windows there before it moved as well. So at that point they then outgrew that again, and they have then moved over to Wellwind, where we kind of sit now, and that was in 1925, which is coming up to its 100th birthday next year. And so I kind of looked, and Carnegie donated £6,500 to that, to build that one, which in today's money is £469,685.98p.
That's insane, isn't it? To think it was that kind of equivalent of money. That is absolutely mad. Fantastic.
the other people that donated as well was the Airdrie Savings Bank. So, as if people might have been in that street or seen these kind of buildings, the former Airdrie Savings Bank is on that corner on the same street as the Wellwind Library.
Yeah.
And it looks similar because it had actually the same architect. So the Airdrie Savings Banks donated £1,000 to be like, but one of the criteria is you have to kind of make it look like our building.
Match the building.
Yeah, so they had an architect called John Maurice Arthur, and he kind of used the sandstone and the great granite to ensure like a cohesive appearance for it all. So, but what I feel that this kind of again highlights is the fact that the town was really behind the library, and the fact that they needed to grow it and grow it and grow it and find this need for it. It just showed how people were really supporting it.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing story to hear, like the kind of history behind the library. I think as well, it's just one of the fantastic things about it, and that kind of those little kind of anecdotes, if you like, about kind of like who donated money and things like that. People don't necessarily know those kind of parts of how the building came about and where it's moved from and to and all that sort of stuff. It's really interesting to hear, and it does kind of highlight really that the Airdrie is quite a historic town, like you say. Like the Airdrie Library was, from a library point of view, it was Airdrie is the first town to have adopted the Public Library Act Scotland. But there's lots of other heritage within the area that needs kind of preserved and remembered, doesn't there?
Yeah. So again, this is like history 101 for people from Airdrie and Coatbridge. So Monklands. Right, I have been, so my local hospital is the Monklands Hospital. So I've spoken to Monklands for like all my life, like everybody's been saying that, and I didn't realise it was because actual monks owned that land at one point and farmed that land in the 12th century. So even something as that, I did not know up until like a couple of months ago. So just to let people know about that. So, and then what it became was a market town. So a lot of people attribute Robert Hamilton to kind of start and spark off the town of Airdrie. He got it commissioned to be like a market town, and that's what kind of grew the commerce and the trade and the wealth in it. It was had weaving as part of it, ironworks. It was a banking hub for most of Lanarkshire's industries at the time, so you'll be able to see the remnants of that just now. All the kind of listed buildings, the nice buildings, were all former banks at one point. And a lot of the built heritage that Rediscovering Airdrie is like aiming to preserve, and so a part of the kind of funding and things is the Historic Environment Scotland, and they're really keen at the built to kind of look at the built environment and the buildings and all and how we can preserve it and see to conserve things and our history that way. So yeah, if you ever go through Airdrie and Bank Street and things, a lot of the buildings were former banks, and that was because we kind of held a lot of the money in the industries at the time, commerce. From that point, we kind of also had the boots factory, which we're running more closer to date, and then they have a distillery and then potatoes as well, the Bartlett's factory. So the Albert Bartlett's factory is actually a leading part of the community as well. They've funded the Airdrie FC Stadium, which is called the Albert Bartlett Stadium. So football is also a key like history and something that brings the community together, and the fact that Airdrie is very, very passionate about it. So one of the other stories that we tell is Airdrie hosted the first penalty kick.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was actually Lark Hall that took the penalty kick, but so I've found out about this like maybe like at the start of my my role here, but I never really thought about it before. So basically, I went down a rabbit hole looking at it, and the kind of conditions of that and the new kind of rules of doing a penalty kick for a foul happened a month before. So Airdrie was actually the first people to fill the penalty box, which I thought was quite funny. So to me, that just speaks about the passion that they have for the game, which is still seen today, and the fact that they cared so much about it. Another one I found out recently from one of the reminiscence days was, I have no way of verifying this, I tried, but apparently Airdrie was the first to do a crossbar in the goalpost.
Okay.
Right, so again, this is one of the weird and wonderful things I find myself down a rabbit hole since I've started this project. So the crossbar used to be just 2 posts.
Okay.
And then so what used to happen, so a lot of teams, when I was looking up, put tape and string from one post to the other to kind of make a crossbar to say like whether the ball went in or not.
Yeah. Okay.
So when I was on one of the reminiscence days, one of the local people said it was Airdrie that did it first, though, with the tape across the crossbar.
I wonder if any of our listeners will be able to confirm whether that's a myth or true. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
But another kind of thing that I really like about one of my interesting stories that I found, there's been a lot of interesting facts that I found out, but also this was a conversation I had in Airdrie Library. I was in the staff room, and one of the staff members, this is the person that kind of went, okay, what's your favourite thing about Airdrie? And I got stumped, and I was like, because I was put on the spot, and there was just so much, and everything was flying in my head at the one time. But I was like, well, so what's yours? And her favourite story was, so the Airdrie Library used to house collections, museum collections, and there was work going on, and so they put the collections and stored it in weird places. You'll probably know this one, but like I
think I do know what's coming up.
Yeah, they had workers in who went to the crawl space, and what they were faced with was this kind of lizard, I will say just now. Looking back at them in the crawl space, so at that point they really got a fright because I wasn't sure if that was actually real or not. But it turns out it was a stuffed Komodo dragon from the museum's collection, like underneath the floor space.
Yeah. I think they found the workers came across a lot of that stuff, and I think over the course of time, people kind of just forgot it was there, and then it was kind of rediscovered. And I think there was like paintings and stuff like that amongst it, and things like that as well, kind of quite valuable paintings.
Yeah, so what the interesting thing about the paintings is that's up in the loft, but the hatch for the loft is smaller than the paintings.
Yeah. So
they've built it in and like put all the paintings in. So I think they were found at a different time as well. So yeah, and the other part of that, which I don't know is true, but it sounds funny, the builder then left the Komodo dragon there for any other builders coming and not tell them, so they got a fright as well. Situated that right at the door.
Yeah, why not?
And the other couple of stories what I found was interesting. So most people from Airdrie would know this one, but the Gerard family and the links to Dracula.
Yep.
Again, this is one that maybe outside Airdrie don't really tend to know, and when I go about and tell people, they're like, "What? No way." So Emily Gerard, she wrote a precursor to Dracula, where people are saying that it was kind of then inspired Dracula.
The
you probably know this one better.
Yeah, I think it was an inspiration for the Dracula stories and stuff like that. And it's an interesting story. And it's amazing to think these kind of like big these big kind of well-known worldwide stories that have got a link back to Airdrie and the time.
I feel like all roads lead to Airdrie now, I'm finding, honestly. But this leads me right to my last story, which actually leads it nicely, is we got an email in our Rediscovering Airdrie mailbox from a woman who is from Toronto, Canada, which obviously Airdrie and Canada have got links with Airdrie in Canada. saying that she's been over and visited and things like that. But the interesting thing about her is her name is Airdrie. So, so basically, her great grandfather went over, immigrated to Canada, and from that point, he named anybody, the firstborn female in the family is Airdrie, and the firstborn male is Graham Airdrie. So, so Airdrie.
So that's our first name, was Airdrie.
That's our first name, and then when I first got met with that, I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. But then it did start sounding like, it sounds a bit like Deirdre actually. And I was like, that does sound like actual like a good name now, like Airdrie. Like, how can that be a name? But so yeah, we've been talking with Airdrie, and she's kind of keen to be part of the project, and potentially in the future come over for an event or something like that. And we've kind of had ties with her, so she's really keen to fly the flag, and felt that Airdrie really was very, she said, very friendly and welcoming, and she really enjoyed our visit when she came over, and she'd be really happy to kind of tie up another one so she can come over and visit the Rediscovering Airdrie project.
That's amazing. That's fantastic. To move on a wee bit, I believe there was a survey that you guys did about it. I got the wee postcard in the post with the stained glass window logo that you were mentioning on it. What kind of information did you guys gather from that? What sort of things were you asking, and what kind of interesting responses did you get from that survey?
Yeah, so the purpose of the survey was to basically just to get a kind of baseline where people's kind of thoughts and feelings of Airdrie, like how do they feel about it? Are they aware? Oh, there it is. Are they aware of the observatory? Are they aware of the built heritage? How invested are they in the history, or finding out more, and just get a kind of baseline? So 500 people responded, which was great. And yeah, we did a leaflet drop, which you got one of them.
Yeah.
And things that came back. So we asked, what is a positive word that you would use to describe Airdrie? So things was like welcoming, friendly, community. People said that it's historic, proud, and home. So basically, I thought that was really, really nice. Like the positive. There were some people that cheated and didn't write a positive word, maybe. But I was pleased to see there was lots and lots and lots of positive words, and people kind of felt really proud about where they stayed, and that's a common theme that I've had throughout. Just a kind of pride, and they're keen to talk about it. And when I speak to people, so my job has been actually really easy to sell and talk about the Rediscovering Airdrie project, because it's selling them on an idea that they already know. It's like, duh, well, obviously Airdrie's good and it's got history. Like, yeah, we're in. And they would even like add to it and tell me more stories and more facts and more things that made it unique and special. And I've just got a whole wealth of stories now. I've only told a few today. So although that obviously there's a kind of underlying feeling that they're maybe a wee bit downhearted, a wee bit wistful about sometimes the place is not in the best state and things, but overall I would say it was positive and hopeful as well. So one of the quotes is like, I feel that Airdrie, that the town centre is the key to restoring pride in Airdrie. So that's where we're kind of focusing, is the town centre part, to kind of bring a kind of hub with the library and things like that. And I think it's a great idea to bring it back to the historic past of Airdrie. So like I said, it was an easy sell because we're highlighting the heritage part of it. We're celebrating that. We're sharing that with other people and trying to raise awareness. So the survey was really good and really positive.
That's fantastic, and it's good to hear that you got quite such a large response as well. Which sometimes I think when we do these kind of survey things, you don't quite know how well you'll get what you'll get back.
Yeah.
So it's quite good to hear that you did actually kind of get quite a nice kind of response back there too. Going forward as well, are there any forthcoming in-person activities or events and things like that the public in Airdrie can get involved in with the project?
Yeah, so this kind of part of the project is kind of coming to an end, but there's still a few wee things. If you've missed your kind of chance to have your say in the survey and things, like you've not missed your chance, we've got a public consultation coming up in the Airdrie Library. So that's on Monday, the 4th of November, and it's all day. And so it's just drop in and still have your say, where we'll be kind of speaking about plans and things, and still giving people the kind of opportunity to speak to us.
Fantastic. And what about kind of any the sort of significant next steps is for the project to move into the next phase of it? What happens? What's the kind of next phase of that?
Next. Right. So things to look out for. We've got blue plaques going up and about the Airdrie Town Centre, highlighting some of this built heritage and the buildings, and kind of putting it on the map and destination for people to read. So they should be going out soon, so keep your eye out for them. The team, as I said, we're working on putting a bid together for the funding application, and hopefully we'll hear about all that really soon. And another kind of significant part is we're having that end of year celebration. We're thinking December. So everybody that's been involved in the project or not involved in the project so far, but would like to come and speak to us, we're kind of showcasing everything that we've kind of done. We've done a few like films, Airdrie on film and things, and we've got the blue plaques, and we've got lots of kind of bits and pieces that we've produced throughout the year that we'll be showcasing, and we just want to kind of thanks for the people that helped us, but also kind of speak to people that would like to get involved maybe, and things like that. So yeah, to look out for that as well.
Fantastic. That sounds really, really good as well. And finally, to wrap up the kind of project side of things here, for you, what would be the ultimate achievement for the Rediscovering Airdrie project? What would make you feel all nice and warm inside at the end of it if you get to achieve it?
I would just want to do it justice. Like, I feel like people have really opened up about it, and it's so precious and it's so close to people's heart about Airdrie and things. So I just really want to do the people that I've spoken to and the people that's came before, the Airdrieonians came before, the built heritage, the rich history. I just want to do it all justice and showcase it and continue to celebrate it and share the pride that they've got, and just raise awareness of all the amazing groups that are already there, the resources that are already there, the library. And overall, I just want it would be ultimate achievement just to done it all justice, and it's what people are.
I think it's whenever you kind of get involved in kind of hearing those personal stories that you kind of becomes a little bit kind of precious to you a little bit, and you just want to kind of be able to share that and let people know more about it, and I think that's kind of hopefully what will come out of the Rediscovering project is that it will just kind of keep that sort of the historic side of things and build on it that little bit more for everybody going forward. And it'll kind of be something that lots of people can discover and kind of find out a bit more about themselves and the place that they live as well, if they don't know some of the history of it already, which is fantastic. So thank you for telling us all about the project. But I've got a couple of final questions for you as well that are kind of not related to it, because it is a library podcast. So I thought I would try and find out. I don't know actually if you are much of a reader, Katie, but I thought I would find out if you are, what book have you been reading recently that you've maybe really, really enjoyed, or have you got a favourite that you want to mention or something like that?
Yeah. Well, reading, not really a fiction reader, and maybe more audiobooks than podcasts.
That's all right.
But there is a book that I would like to highlight that I've kind of went back to recently, which is and I'm more like self-help kind of thing. So my background is people, personal development, mental health. So I don't know. This is kind of people like self-help stuff. The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, or Tolle, whatever people say. So The Power of Now basically is the premise that most people kind of know this. Like, if you're focusing on your past, you're kind of worrying about things. You're focusing on the future, kind of worrying about things. All you can really change is the now and the present moment. So the more that you can bring yourself back to the now and the present moment, the kind of more happier, mindful you'll be. So they work on the fact that this Eckhart Tolle had like a dark night of the soul, he called it, where he was tossing and turning in despair. So he was up to his 29th year. He was very self-conscious and anxious, and had all these running thoughts constantly, a constant stream. And one time when he was tossing and turning in despair, he said to himself, I cannot live with myself any longer. And that kind of resonated in his brain, round and round and round and round. And then he's like, wait a wee minute. He was like, who's myself and who's I? At that point, I cannot live with myself any longer. So that's two distinct things and entities that are happening in his brain that are kind of that are colliding and thinking. So through this kind of introspection, he had an enlightenment moment where he realised he's the I, and the myself is the mind. So the I, so what he's trying to convey is we're the observer of the mind. So sometimes when we're in the now, that's the observer. When we're getting this constant stream of thoughts that are like, we're not good enough, and all the kind of that's your mind. And the more that you can distinguish the two and observe the thoughts and not identify with that they kind of negative thoughts almost, and the more you can live in the I and observe it, the more kind of happier and mindful you'll be, which is like the present moment. So the moment you realise that you're not in the present moment is the moment you are in the present moment. So if that makes sense. So the more if you're in the thick of it and all the thoughts are running hot and you're either worrying about the future or thinking about the past and it's running really, really hot and you're in the midst of it and you don't really identify it, the moment you're like, oh, I'm not in the present, and you look around you and you see textures and you feel things and you look at things and bring yourself to the present, that's when that all stops. So that's really what he's trying to advocate for and live through and bring yourself back to that kind of present moment a lot.
Fantastic. No, it's a really good book recommendation, because we do tend to probably focus a lot more on fiction books in our podcast. It's nice to kind of get a little bit of a change. And health and wellbeing books are very, very popular at the moment. And I certainly see that whenever I'm buying the stock for our borrow box service, that they always are quite popular ones whenever we get them, and they are always quite a lot. And so it's kind of nice to kind of have a wee recommendation from something a wee bit different, which is why we always ask the question, because everyone enjoys something a wee bit different. So fantastic. Now, to round things up, finally, for our listeners' benefit, last time I spoke to you, Katie, you had a wee accident and you had injured your arm, and I'd feel bad about not trying to find out if you are on the mend or recovering. So how is your arm? Are you feeling better?
It's better. So what happened? I kind of slipped down a few stairs and grabbed onto the banister to kind of support myself, and I wrenched my shoulder. So at the time I did have the kind of sling on and things, so I was speaking to you last. So I'm back driving, the pain's minimum, but the mobility's not back yet. So it's getting there. Like I can reach that arm up, but this arm only goes halfway. It's basically it, but I'm going to be working on it.
Fantastic. Well, at least you're on the mend, at least, which is nice to hear. And it's not stopped me from going full force with the Rediscovering Airdrie project, which is fantastic for the people of Airdrie, that they've got you kind of working hard on that as well. So thank you very much, Katie, for coming along and telling us all about the project and filling us in with some really kind of fascinating, kind of historic and facts and insights there amongst that as well, which is really, really fun to hear. And all the best with the future of the project.
Thank you. Well, I just want to say, if I've got any historic facts wrong, my name's John Paul, so please just take all the over to him. John Paul Sumner, contact him. No, obviously I'll be happy to hear from anybody. If they go to the website, there's Rediscovering Airdrie website, so type in North Lanarkshire Council Rediscovering Airdrie and they'll get our webpage, and there's so much other things on there that they'll be able to get in our contact details. So if anybody wants to speak to us, please email and we'll get back.
Fantastic. So thank you, Katie, again, and I hope that our listeners have found this really quite interesting.
Thank you.
So there you go, guys. Thank you very much to Katie for coming along and talking to me. It was really, really interesting to find out a lot more about the project. find out some really kind of interesting little facts about Airdrie as well, and amongst all that as well, some of which I didn't know, even though I am from Airdrie myself. And so it was really, really interesting to hear about that. Now, a few little updates from kind of library service point of view. We have got some exciting events that are happening very, very soon. We have got an author visit from Sarah Sheridan coming up at Cumbernauld Library very, very soon. It's on the 8th of October at 2:30. You can get a place for that. It's free to come along, and Sarah's latest book is The Secrets of Library Square, which is very exciting to come along to see that. There is also other visits as well coming up from Martin Stepek, who is visiting two of our libraries actually as part of the Scottish Mental Health Arts Festival. He is coming along to Motherwell Library on Monday the 21st of October at 7 o'clock, and Bellsill Cultural Centre as well on Thursday, 24th of October as well. So at 7 o'clock too. And you can book places for those two events on our website as well. Now, today is also, I think there was a little mention during the interview of poetry. Today is National Poetry Day as well, and to mark the occasion, I have also made a little video on our YouTube channel of a reading from a poet that I really like, Niall Campbell. The poem is called Morning Lessons, and you can go and listen to that as well if you haven't done so as well. Next week as well is also Green Libraries Week, and we have got some exciting stuff happening there too. There's an accessory swap going on at Cumbernauld Library all week long, and you can go along and kind of swap a few items and take some of the stuff that's been there as well. And so it's all about kind of recycling, reusing, and just creating a kind of green environment and things like that, which libraries are quite good with anyway, obviously, with the kind of using loaning of books and borrowing books and stuff like that. So do kind of check that out and watch out for any other kind of sort of green library stuff that's going on throughout the week as well. And also coming up very, very soon will be our announcements about Book Week Scotland, which is a very exciting time for us in November too. So we will be announcing that very, very soon. And we have got some exciting author visits to go along with that as well. So do watch this space for some exciting stuff to do with Book Week Scotland happening very, very soon. But until next time, guys, that's all for me. I hope you've enjoyed listening. And if you do, check out the Rediscovering Airdrie project. Go and have a look at it and see what you think, and see if you want to add anything to the discussion. Bye for now, guys.